Welcome to Leadership Rules, where we believe leadership isn't just a role, it's a way of life. Whether you're leading a team, a community, or simply leading yourself, we're here to help you unlock the rules to lead your life with purpose and impact. I'm Nick Caniglio, and I'm joined by my co-host, Marnie Stockman. Together, we co-authored Lead It Like Lasso, and we are super thrilled today to welcome Luca Rossi.
Yes, we are. So Luca is a former co-founder and CTO of the startup Wander.io and the current founder of Refactoring, a newsletter dedicated to engineering leaders and anyone passionate about building great engineering teams. With over 140,000 subscribers, so that tells you something. Refactoring is one of the largest, if not the largest, newsletters of its kind. So while the newsletter is engineering focused, as active subscribers, we can confidently say that much of its content applies universally to leadership, teamwork, problem solving. It's a must read 3 times a week. And I'm not technical and I open Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I absolutely open and read them. So, and maybe stalk them. So we've never met Luca before today in person. We already feel like we know him through his writing. So that's always a weird moment. So you are absolutely our kind of people. And we couldn't be more excited for this conversation. So thank you so much for joining us. Welcome. And how do we do? Anything else to add to that?
That's perfect. Thank you so much for your kind words, Manny. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, we're excited to have you.
We are thrilled. And I have to, before we go on, I have to share one quick story. So I have a friend who last year found himself looking for a job after his company went through an acquisition and they went through a reduction in force. And he spent over 20 years as a lead engineer and as an engineering manager with the same company. And when he was out looking for a new job, he was pretty concerned because he was with that company for so long that he wasn't really up to speed with current engineering practices. And at some point, I gifted him a month of your newsletter, Luca, because you allow our subscribers to do that, thinking it might help. And long story short, he ended up landing a job at one of the big 5 tech companies after going through 8 interviews. And I remember he took us out to dinner a couple of days after landing that job. And he pulled me over to the side and he's like, I really need to thank you. And I was like, of course. But I didn't understand why, right? I was like, why are you thanking me? He said, the most important thing, one of the most important, if not the most important things that helped him get through that exhaustive interview process was the knowledge and confidence that he had gotten from reading all through the Refactoring article. So wow. I will thank you on behalf of him, Luca. And I think it really speaks to the point of what great information is in that newsletter. So it's pretty darn cool.
This completely made my day and possibly my week. So thank you so much for sharing this story. It's really, this is really the reason why I keep doing what I do. And I think one of the great benefits of writing things online, like a newsletter or other things, even running a podcast, is that you have this kind of, every once in a while, I would love to get this like every day. Of course, it doesn't happen, but every once in a while you get this kind of direct feedback and on how you're doing, on the value that sometimes you are creating. And it's these stories that really keep me going. So thank you so much for sharing this.
Oh, yeah. You're quite welcome.
So as Ted Lasso fans, and we know you're a Ted Lasso fan too, we always start with some icebreaker questions, which we call biscuits with the boss, just like Ted would.
Yes.
So these are just some quick questions. Coffee or tea?
So I'm Italian, so I'm a coffee guy. And so my opinion about tea is pretty much the same as Ted.
Just Ted.
Garbage water. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. I wouldn't have the courage to say that out loud as he did, but yeah.
Awesome. How about Windows or Mac?
I'm a Mac guy.
I knew that.
Yeah. Dog or cat?
I have a cat. I always had cats. Even my parents had cats. So, but I love dogs. But I always had cats. So. No strong opinions.
Don't want to irritate anyone on that one.
Yeah. How about favorite character in Ted Lasso?
So this is a very hard one. So I'll give a boring answer, but I find myself in a lot of things about Ted himself, the way he behaves, he talks with others, and even some of his, own shortcomings and limits. I find
Yeah.
myself a lot in that. But I also loved Kaylee and Rebecca, female characters. I think are incredible in that show, and I think one of the strengths of the show is it's just that all characters are very memorable, and you get this great attachment to basically all of them because they're all so different but so believable. And so I would be very hard pressed to find a favorite one.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
so
totally
glad that
fair.
you mentioned Keely because Marty and I do a rewatch podcast, and it's amazing where we kind of just pull out the different leadership lessons of each episode, and it's really amazing how often Keely ends up just being so strong in so many
Yeah.
different areas. She's an overlooked character in terms of leadership. I know we all like her, but she does so many things well. So glad you mentioned that.
Absolutely, absolutely, I agree 100%.
So, last one as we kind of get into the meat of it, leadership, more art or more science?
Oh, this is a great one. So I think it's kind of a dance between, I mean, because what's art and what's science, right? Art is more like no rules. You get with your own vibes and what you think is right, but you're not following like a playbook. While science instead is I'm an engineer, we have our own rules, we follow the rules. So I think it's something that starts as an art, no particular rules, and then you create them and isolate them. And so I think the goal is to turn as much as possible the art into science all the time, right? So
I
Yep.
like that. Yeah, that's
I,
a go ahead, Nick.
I'm almost imagining in your newsletter one of your nice little graph charts with axis x-axis with science and
yes.
y-axis with art. I have to ask you, do you do the art and the graphics for your newsletter? Is that
Yes,
something that you?
100%. And up to until I think a couple of months ago, I did everything like by hand, even the straight lines. I was drawing
Yeah.
them but straight by hand. Then I found a better way that is partially manual and partially, digital, let's say.
Yeah.
But I do
Yeah.
everything myself. Yeah.
They are fantastic. They are great
Yeah.
visuals to get points across. I think that's when I first started reading your newsletter. That was the first thing I was drawn to because I'm kind of a visual type of guy, and
Yeah, me too.
I just want to compliment you on that.
Yeah,
So
thank you. Because I mean, it's kind of self-serving for me because I'm a visual person too. So many times, the way I feel like I've understood really something or the relationship between a couple of things is by drawing something that explains
yeah,
that relationship. And if
Yeah.
I'm not able to, I feel like I've not really gotten into to the
Yeah, you
center,
don't own it
of it.
yet.
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. So let's talk a little bit about your journey, Luca. We mentioned earlier this tremendous success that you've had with your newsletter. Gosh, over 140,000 subscribers. I still can't believe that. Um, but as with your background in technology, was there ever a point where you realized that your growth trajectory wouldn't be reliant upon technology skills alone, and it was really some of the soft skills and how you interacted with people that would really kind of propel you to where you're at today?
Yeah, love this question. And I have to say that, I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, very early, I should say, because my very first job out of university was co-founder and CTO of a startup. So I didn't know how to do pretty much anything, but especially working with others and running an engineering team.
Mm.
So I think many of us enter computer science uh, with the idea that computer systems and software is kind of predictable. We are in our kind of comfort zone where we can control things. And it feels like you can go a long way just by working with computers, right? While instead, when you start working, I think it's immediately clear that you don't go very far by just working with computers. It's working with other people that matters the most.
Yeah.
And so, especially for me as a founder, it was quickly necessary that I had to work for the outcome of my team rather than for the outcome of myself. And so, yeah, I had this was like a crash course for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, startup life will do that for sure. I mean, there's so
Yeah.
many learning things that are required along the way. Um, can you talk about a time when you had like a bold vision that really seemed impossible at first, but you made it happen?
So I have to say that I mean, most recently, probably earning a living through writing. This is something that for me, I mean, when I started the newsletter, I had a couple of examples in my mind of people who, quote unquote, had made it, had turned a side gig, a hobby into full-time job, into earning a living through that. But I wouldn't have thought, as you said, today, 2025, 140,000 subscribers. Still feel insane to me. And I love every minute of this. But I mean, as a former founder, you always have this idea of turning maybe a hobby into a business, something like that. So I had kind of this vision that maybe if everything, if all the stars aligned, maybe I could be doing this in a few years. But really, it all turned out better, 10 times better than I would ever expect.
Yeah, you are. I mean, the bold vision. I mean, it's coming through loud and clear with your success with refactoring. It's super cool. So Marty and I are writing. We've written another book. It's what's called The Business of You, and we talk about this whole notion of personal leadership and modeling your growth like a successful business. And one of the things that we talk about is, establishing a tagline for yourself. So we're curious with you specifically, right? And you may have this right off the tip of your tongue because you are your business right now with refactoring, although I know it's growing and it's expanding even beyond you,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool. But we have a question that we like to ask people. Like, if you were pitching yourself, Luca, as a startup, what would your
Yeah.
tagline be?
So on one side, you're right that I should have this ready on the tip of my tongue because my business is like more of a personal business. On the other side, I have to say that I'm fortunate that during my journey, I have done many different things already as a founder first, then a manager at a larger company, now more of a content creator. So I've struggled sometimes to come up with this definition for myself because I think it's useful to look yourself from a distance and trying to figure out what you're about. And so it's hard for me to find a tagline. What I figured out about myself is that maybe the fact that I've been raised as a founder, that's my imprinting in the market. I'm more of a jack of all trades, so I know my way around many things, and most things that are needed to create a digital design, product development, growth, and I like learning new things. I mean, I'm comfortable with the fact that maybe I don't know many things because I don't see myself as a specialist. So I'm happy to learn new stuff, and I'm happy with sharing what I do online, which I think makes for a good flywheel. Makes me grow personally, makes me new friends, like we're talking today. So that's probably what I like the most about myself.
That's so. I have a question about that. So, at any point, I often talk about my struggles with imposter syndrome. I mean, did you ever have that struggle posting your thoughts and your opinions and your content online? Was that ever a struggle for you?
Yeah, 100%. I think all the time, and I mean, it gets better with time, but it never goes away. And I think it's even kind of healthy. I mean, you should. I think you should have some level of that. There is not too much that paralyzes you, but not too little that makes you don't care about the things that you write online. So the feedback from the people who read what you write, it's very important, and you should never get insensitive to that. So I think you should strike the right balance, but definitely I feel that to this day still.
Yeah.
Nick, that reminds me of the comment we were making the other day, sort of the dangers of conviction, right? If you're too positive that you're always right and never wrong, it's a really dangerous place to be as well. So always having a bit of self-doubt will help keep you honest along the way and
Yeah.
always learning, to your point, right?
Absolutely. I think you can even think about like a litmus test for whether what you're writing has value, has potential or not, is whether you're a little bit uncomfortable writing that. If you're writing something that makes you too comfortable, maybe you're not really saying something that has a lot of value. Maybe people know all of this already. While instead you have to feel these, the butterflies in the stomach makes you eager to see what people are saying about what you wrote, because you put a piece of yourself out there.
Yeah.
So you have to look for that also a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Couldn't agree with that more. In the same notion of sort of like individuals need to treat themselves like businesses, that individuals should have a personal board of advisors, right? Different folks that'll meet
Yeah.
you, guide you. Ted had the Diamond Dogs, which we absolutely loved.
Yes.
Folks that'll hold you accountable, that you trust, right? So we'd
Yes.
love to hear your take on this, especially I know I have watched a video on one particular bit of it. So we'd love to hear about your board of advisors, who's on there. You don't have to name names unless you want to, but
Yeah.
like the types of folks that you have on your personal board of advisors.
Yeah. So first of all, I love the Demon Dogs too. I think first of all, they're a lot of fun. And then the whole concept kind of normalizes having some kind of conversations with friends, with others, being vulnerable. And I think we don't talk enough about these kind of things. There's still a lot of prejudice about the fact that you shouldn't really talk about that. The kind of Roy Kent of the world. You have to act as
Yeah.
you're a hot guy. But yeah, I have my personal board of advisors, and I think for every part of my life, I can think about maybe one person that I really look up to, that I would reach out to if I want some good advice. So I'm fortunate that I have a very good relationship with my other former co-founders, and we stay in touch and we talk about a lot of things, because the relationship you have with co-founders is special, is unlike anything I think you have in life, part family, part co-workers, part best friends. And then I'm also fortunate that I always stayed in touch with a few friends from when I was young, from high school, with whom I shared some parts of my life, that are different from my life as a founder, as an engineer. And then, of course, I think my family, my close family, so my wife, my brother, these are the relationships that you need to nurture the most, and they need to stay on top of your board of directors, because otherwise, what are you even doing? So it's a combination of all this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so important to keep you on track and motivate you and challenge you. It's critically important. We couldn't agree more with your statement around that relationship as founders and what a what a wide variety of needs that were filled because you've been through so much ups and downs for sure.
Yeah.
Um, so we talk often when we're out on our speaking circuit, we talk about this whole notion of the character revolution, and we didn't coin that. Adam Grant coined it, I think, in Hidden Potential. I'm sure other people talked about it, but it's so true today with the world of AI and automation. It's leveling out the playing field to some extent, but it's really the character skills that we believe help you stand out and differentiate
Yeah.
yourself. And Carnegie had a study where they said that 85% of success was not determined by harder technical skills, but by soft skills. So we're curious in the world of technology, is there an underrated soft skill that more people need from your perspective?
Absolutely, yes. First of all, I want to say I 100% agree with this. And probably it's always been like that. Maybe today is more evident because of AI, and it feels like AI is going to commoditize part of the hard skills, part of the technical skills, right? And so
Yep.
people may say, of course, now maybe the balance and the pendulum swings more towards the soft skills, but I think it was like that even before. I mean, right off the gate, after a few years in the industry, you never get promoted basically on your pure tech chops, but rather on the impact, the value you create, and that is through working with others. And I think the tech world is especially sensitive to this, because it's so technical, it's so hard, and a collaboration is very hard between, for example, technical people and non-technical people. So if I have to mention one skill, it should probably be good communication.
Okay.
So the tech world is full of jargon and generally hard concepts. It's not like we are trying to make things more complex than they are. That they're really hard. So people who are able to translate technology trade-offs and tech work to non-tech people really have a superpower, and that goes both ways. I mean, both engineers who have success talking with managers, translating the work to managers, and managers who are able to communicate well with engineers and understand their work. So that's probably it.
It's interesting you say that because when we were talking about taglines, we often use the phrase English to English translator, which, or I mean, Italian to Italian translator, right? If you're in Italy, it's this, but you do need those humans that are able to connect the dots for folks. I did that on the customer success side, and Nick does that well with business to tech side. So we're like two English to English translators. And the way you described yourself, I think that's also a similar piece. So, how can tech leaders create an environment where people want to stay and thrive today, right? People are hopping all over the place in jobs. What can tech leaders do?
Wow, this is such a great question. I think we could speak like hours just about that. I think, I mean, let's try to to go top down. I think the best environments are where people are able to do their best work. So they are like challenged but not overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
And that typically happens to me when you're in an environment where you can bring your full best self to work, and you can bring it to do work that is exciting and challenging and makes you grow personally. So I think the part where the environment allows you to bring your full self is very, very important. So whenever we think about toxic environments, to me, it always seems like situations where you become like a diminished version of yourself. You have to bite your tongue. There are many things on which you are restrained. And that's when you're not growing. You are kind of becoming a worse version of yourself. I wouldn't say
Mm-hmm.
otherwise. And so the opposite of that is an open environment where everyone can speak what's going on in their minds and is doing great work that express their full potential. Of course, it's easier said than done. This is like the
Sure.
holy grail. It's not advice. It's trivial to say, but it's another thing to accomplish that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. So hard. So we started with biscuits with the boss, some very quick icebreakers. We're going to go with a almost rapid fire round here. We've got a couple other questions to close this out with, and I know that I've seen some of the posts on the newsletter about the fact that you're involved with book clubs. So we're curious if there is one book that every tech leader should read, what would it be?
So I'm particularly a fan of the Phoenix Project, which is a book about DevOps, let's say. But the particular thing about this is that it's a novel, so it's not like a non-fiction book. It's a story told through characters and story of a company, and it's an incredible book. In a way, it's similar to Ted Lasso in a way because it teaches you lessons through real stories. And I remember when I read it, I thought, why aren't there more business books written this way as novels? Because they are
Yeah.
like 10 times more effective. And I don't have an answer. I think the answer is probably that there are not many authors who are able to pull this off. That's the only explanation I can find because it's really great. And if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it.
So I'm all about a book recommendation. I'm almost annoying with the quantity of books I recommend to folks. So I love when I get one that I haven't read. So it's on the list. It'll be in the shopping cart and delivered shortly.
Yeah.
So if you could build an app to
Yeah.
fix one leadership problem, what would it be?
That's a good one. I think, I mean, I don't want to repeat myself, but communication is really a big problem because ultimately, um, most problems, or at least a lot of problems, come down to bad communication.
Yeah.
So a lot of arguments and fights at work come down to the fact that we are not able to put ourselves in the shoes of the other people. We have different concerns, and if everybody magically had, full visibility into what's going on in others' mind, what I care about, what are my pain points, uh, we would never fight. I mean, maybe sometimes, but like 90% times less than what we do, the one we do today. So I think maybe communication doesn't express the full spectrum of this. But yeah, I would say communication.
Yeah. We're, Marty, you want to share your story about communication guide? I think.
Oh, so yeah, when we first started our company, the first person we hired was in customer success, and we worked remotely because it was during the pandemic. So I felt like, as a former teacher, felt like I communicated all the things right, but found, sort of 6 months in
Yeah,
that didn't in fact work out. So we had to let that person go, and we hired another one. And I had read the Scaling People by Claire
yeah,
Hughes Johnson, and it
yeah,
talks about creating a working with me doc. So we
yeah,
created our version of a communication guide. And so then when we hired folks, I would give them my communication guide with setting expectations on how to communicate. And then they had to share theirs back. And
yeah,
so interesting. It is so much easier when you understand things about people. For example, do not, it better be a fire that needs to be put out right now for you to text me after 9 o'clock at night, because I go to bed, right? Like, and I'm not going to bother you before 8 a.m., but I'm going to be up at 5 working. And even little things like that in the
yes,
communication helped. And it is, I mean, we couldn't agree more that understanding how folks work so that you can better communicate with their style, personality, comfort
yes,
level, when to text versus when, or like even those simple things. And there's communication way bigger, but also
yeah,
just simple things in terms of how I want to be communicated with can just
yes.
smooth the way for folks.
Absolutely. And I think one of the pitfalls for many managers or leaders is that they think they find a playbook that works because they had some success with some way of working with some people. And just to find that this doesn't work with other people. And
Yeah.
Yep.
maybe you don't realize that it's your fault basically, and you fault others. And the problem is that the same style doesn't work with everyone, so you have to be intentional, getting into things with eyes wide open. Like I love documents with how to work with me. It's I think it's great to be intentional about these things because different people, you can get the best work from different people by working with them in different ways. So yeah, there is not one style that works for everybody.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. So, outside of communication, what's one small leadership habit that can deliver really big results?
So it's not really outside of communication, but I think one-on-ones, it's an incredible habit that I have to mention because um, it's kind of getting a little bit of a pushback maybe lately because there's a lot of conversation online about the fact that maybe we are communicating too much, we are babysitting engineers, and some habits from big tech are exaggerated. And so even the basic one-on-ones are getting some flack online. But I believe that keeping a close feedback loop with people about what is working, what's not working. Not It's not about status updates. It's about how you're feeling, what can I do to make you work better, and it's crucial. I mean, it's about a basic feedback loop about how to make people work better. And if you don't have that, the risk is that problems pile up. You don't even realize that. It's not enough to say my door is open. It's not like people come up to you all the time to tell you problems. It does work like that in my experience. And so I'm a big fan of one-on-ones, weekly or bi-weekly at most.
Yeah.
And you've got a lot of content about employee. I mean, since we're on the communication subject, right? And clearly, you're passionate about it. But you have a lot of content on refactoring about that and the frequency and the different types of engagement
Yeah.
and feedback. that's really worth a read for those that are listening out there, for sure.
So, one more question. What's one thing you wish that more leaders in tech believed about leadership?
Oh, this is another great one. I have an easy answer that comes to my mind. That is, I would love more people to believe that and understand that there is no trade-off between behaving like human and speed or outcome. This is something that I think is trending in the wrong direction. And we have a lot of examples from news, from things handled like Elon Musk style. And I'm sure, as we said before, different styles work with different people. So I'm not saying this style or that style doesn't work. Uh, some management styles work with specific types of people that you will attract, right? But that
Yep.
doesn't mean that treating your team as a family or behaving like humans with care and compassion, that it's something that comes at the expense of some kind of outcome or some kind of speed. I don't believe that. There are so many incredible stories of companies that are incredibly empathetic and really behave like families that having achieved incredible success. And so it's up to each of us to find our own preferred style. But sometimes it feels like you have to be hard and you have to be harsh to be a real businessman and to get rich or to get any kind of success, when instead it's not true at all.
That's, I often talk about the fact that I was an accidental leader, right? I was a programmer. I never really sought out to be a leader, but I was really good functionally at what I did. And I kept getting promoted. And uh, I'm going back 25 years ago. My default, because I had no leadership training at all, was to lead how what I thought leadership was, which was pop culture. Everything you see in pop culture in the news is all about authoritative type leadership,
Yes.
um, and that didn't work out well for me at all. It may have gotten me some short term wins, but I
Yeah.
was not playing the long game at
Yeah.
all, and it was more of a masquerade. And clearly, we resonate with Ted Lasso. We wrote a
Yes.
book about it, so it's all about that empathetic servant type leadership, which we are big believers in. For the long term, it will work both in short term, but it'll definitely work better than the authoritative style in the long term, for sure.
Yeah, I agree, and I think every one of us needs to stick to what feels the closest to our true self and more comfortable. And we have to accept that we have blind spots. So being more an empathetic leader sometimes leads to other kind of pitfalls. Maybe it's true for myself as well. I don't like to get into hard conversations, tend to be a people pleaser sometimes. I mean, I see a lot of Ted in this, right? And so what you have to do, I think, is surround yourself with people who complement, the things you're good at with other things you're not as good at. And so that together you form a complete team that is able to handle everything. So surround yourself with people who don't have the same blind spots that you have. They have different blind spots that you don't have possibly.
Maybe you can
So
help them with
yeah,
that. Yeah.
exactly. Yes, yes,
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. Um, I always say biggest fan, harshest critic, right? Like like somebody you trust that is both your biggest fan and your harshest critic because they're honest. Like you trust them enough to give you the hard feedback.
yeah,
I mean, there are certainly plenty of people that are happy to be harsh critics, but you probably don't trust them to you don't heed their advice. But if you really trust someone and they know you and they can give honest feedback, that's awfully
yes.
handy.
I agree,
So we
100%.
would love to for you to tell our listeners where they can find out more about refactoring, what you want to tell us about it, what your goal is for it, because we are obviously super fans. And so tell folks where they can find you.
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much. You have said already so many great things about refactoring. So, refactoring is a newsletter and a podcast and a community. You can find it at refactoring.fm. And I send 2 to 3 emails per week with original articles about, let's say, things at the intersection between software development and engineering management. So basically making software and working with humans, working with people. So it's a very broad scope, I admit, but it's the things that I love, and so would love to have someone join that.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Well, we will put that in the show notes so people have the link directly. And clearly, we recommend. If it's not clear, we've said it a couple of times. We're big fans.
It's
So,
clear.
Luca, this has been a thrill. Thank you so much. You're a busy, busy guy. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. We really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me.